Jun was calm. Not yet. Jizun and Ning Meng led Chu Mingzu and Chu Mingyu down a dark alley. Chu Mingzu was nervous, but tried to act composed. Chu Mingyu held Chu Mingzu's hand tightly. They had to follow these two into the tiger's den. Chu Mingzu whispered, "Are there many demons?" Ning Meng said without turning back, "Yes. Otherwise, we wouldn't have come to seek help." Chu Mingyu continued, "What do the demons look like?" Ning Meng and Jizun exchanged a glance. "What do they look like?" They slowly turned around. Their eyes had turned yellow. Chu Mingyu quickly stepped in front of Chu Mingzu. "Fifth sister, be careful. They are controlled by earth demons." They were nervous but had to fight. Ning Meng and Jizun's faces became more sinister. They slowly approached Chu Mingyu. "Let us feast on your entrails." Ning Meng pointed behind Chu Mingzu. "Look behind you." Chu Mingzu and Chu Mingyu turned around. They saw a group of yellow-eyed people approaching, muttering, "Give me your entrails. Eat meat, entrails, fresh entrails, give it to me quickly." The yellow-eyed people lunged at Chu Mingzu. Chu Mingyu shielded Chu Mingzu in his arms. Chu Jun and Yan Su were about to help, but a voice echoed, "Stop. They are the master's prey, the master will handle them personally." It was the earth demon. Chu Mingzu was even more desperate. Chu Mingyu thought, "Why isn't Chu Jun here yet? Did she trick us?" Thinking this, Chu Mingyu pulled out his wind demon talisman, but the earth demon noticed his action, and ordered the yellow-eyed people to seal Chu Mingyu's talisman. The yellow-eyed people formed a circle around the two. Everyone chanted, "By the order of the demon lord, the demon spirit is sealed." In an instant, Chu Mingzu and Chu Mingyu realized that they couldn't use their talismans. Chu Jun was still observing in the shadows. Mumu was shocked. Isn't that master's spirit sealing technique? How do they know it? Chu Jun also had a bad feeling. Mumu glanced at Chu Jun. "Master, don't get yourself killed." Chu Jun whispered to Yan Su, "Cousin, I'm going to the lion's den. I'm leaving my cousin to you." Yan Su tried to persuade Chu Jun not to go, but Chu Jun had already turned and rushed out. Chu Jun dashed in front of the earth demon and shouted, "Stop." Yan Su rolled his eyes at Chu Jun's theatrics. The earth demon and the yellow-eyed people were displeased. Chu Jun charged at them like a madman. Chu Mingyu and Chu Mingzu shouted for Chu Jun not to come. The next moment, Chu Jun soared into the air. She then landed smoothly within the yellow-eyed people's circle. She struck a graceful pose upon landing. The yellow-eyed people were dumbfounded. Is she stupid? As soon as Chu Jun landed, she realized something was wrong. Damn it, where's my power? Who stole my power? Chu Jun fell to the ground, trembling. Mumu was embarrassed. "Master, your acting is a bit rough." The great demon lord was jealous. The little cub he raised himself, yet it dared to defy him for a demoness. Seeing Chu Mingzu and Chu Mingyu surrounded by the yellow-eyed people, Chu Jun declared that she was going to save them. Then she did a somersault, and landed perfectly inside the enemy's blockade. Her spiritual energy was bound and she trembled on the ground. Chu Mingzu was angry. "Chu Jun, are you crazy? Why did you jump in? They sealed our powers with demon arts." Chu Jun looked pained. "Shameless demons. Using such despicable tricks." The earth demon was enraged. "How dare you make fun of us? Kill her." Chu Jun retorted, "We are all from the Chu family. Why do they get to live, and I have to die?" The earth demon was surprised. "You are also from the Chu family?" Chu Jun nodded. Yes, I am a member of the Chu royal family." Chu Mingzu and Chu Mingyu were speechless, mentally cursing Chu Jun. The earth demon tied Chu Jun and the others and dragged them away. Chu Mingzu and Chu Mingyu were in despair, while Chu Jun winked. She winked at Yan Su. "See how smart I am. I've already infiltrated the enemy." Shi, who was hiding nearby, was panicking. She pleaded with Xiang brother to save her sister, but Yan Su said calmly, "She doesn't need it." His cold indifference made Shi angry. Crying, she scolded, Xiang brother, you're a bad guy. I don't like you anymore." Then, she stomped off, leaving Yan Su behind. Yan Su was stunned. She had only been with Chu Jun for a few days, yet, she cared so much for her. Yan Su released Zhu Qiu, telling him that he was going to find Shi, and asked him to protect my Fuguei. Zhu Qiu transformed into human form, grumbling, "That fox is so annoying. It's easy to restrain her, but he wants to go after her himself." Yan Su glared at Zhu Qiu, warning him, "If you dare to escape, you'll suffer the consequences." Zhu Q felt humiliated. Who said I was going to escape? In a dark dungeon, Chu Jun and the others were bound in a corner. Chu Mingzu whispered, you better have a plan, or were you just rushing in? Chu Jun laughed, what plan? I just wanted to see who the master of these yellow-eyed dogs is. Chu Mingzu glared at Chu Jun, don't tell me you came here just to die. Chu Jun's eyes lit up, in just curious about the master of these yellow-eyed dogs. Chu Mingyu also asked quietly, what is your plan? Ignorant little demons dared to treat the demon lord as a prisoner. Not only are they treating me as a captive, they are also looking down on me. Chu Jun revealed her true nature. She does not need to lift a finger to suppress the enemies. After being captured, Chu Jun and the others were thrown into the dungeon. Chu Mingzu was sure that Chu Jun had a plan when she rushed in. Chu Mingyu leaned closer and asked Chu Jun about her plan. Chu Jun replied bluntly, I came to save you. The earth demon scoffed, you think you can escape when you're in front of my master? I should have killed you first. Chu Jun asked the earth demon, why only the Chu family? Chu Mingzu and her brother were also curious as to why the earth demon's master was targeting the Chu family. The earth demon sneered, the Chu family and my master are mortal enemies. Your flesh and blood are the best offering to bring him back. Chu Jun's smile grew stranger. The seal you use, is it also taught by your master? The earth demon laughed proudly, of course. My master's demon spirit is destined to overturn everything. Chu Jun frowned. Who keeps their demon spirit in a dungeon? I'm embarrassed for you. The earth demon was enraged. He kicked Chu Jun. How dare you insult our master? Chu Jun's smile faded. He's not even a person. Chu Mingzu and her brother laughed. A dead person wants to overturn humanity. What a joke. Suddenly, a surge of energy attacked Chu Mingzu and Chu Mingyu, causing them to cough up blood and turn pale. The earth demon immediately became respectful. Master, you've awakened. The blood on the ground began to form a shape. Slowly, it turned into a human figure. Chu Iho, your clan is truly pathetic. Chu Mingzu and Chu Mingyu were shocked. He was wearing Chu Yihao's clothes. Chu Jun's expression became increasingly grim. She stared intently at the blood figure and asked, are you Chu Iho? How ridiculous, this is so ridiculous. The blood man sneered, you Chu family descendants are just as arrogant as your ancestors. But after I devour you, I will obtain your bodies. Chu Mingzu and her brother turned pale. They were done for. Chu Jun was calm and continued to provoke the blood man, so you want a physical body. Is that because you're nothing but a soulless blob? The blood man was furious. You ignorant fool. I'll devour you first. A crushing force descended. Chu Mingzu and Chu Mingyu could barely withstand it. Their vision blurred. Chu Jun, however, stood her ground and even began to gather spiritual energy. The earth demon was shocked. How is that possible? Seeing Chu Jun was still gathering power, the blood man reached out to grab Chu Jun. Chu Jun laughed. The ropes binding her hands suddenly loosened. They transformed into long whips and struck the blood man. The blood man screamed, how did you break free from the spirit sealing bag? Not only did you break free, you can control its power. Impossible. Chu Jun casually twirled the spirit bag around her hand. To be honest, your knockoff is terrible. Only the earth demon believes it. The earth demon was dumbfounded. The female demon could even cultivate using an old piece of cloth. She even treated Chu Iho like a captive. Chu Iho revealed her true self and beat the opponents. Just when the blood man tried to grab Chu Jun, the bag binding Chu Jun's hands suddenly loosened, transforming into long whips that struck the blood man. The blood man was horrified. How can you break free and control it? Chu Jun kept striking the blood man, making him cover his head and scream. The earth demon started to doubt his life. Is Chu Iho really that weak? Chu Jun put away the whip and sneered, don't you recognize who I am? The blood man grabbed Chu Jun's neck, still wanting to retaliate, but Chu Jun remained unfazed. A cold voice echoed, you really surprised me, little one. To think that a piece of my old clothing could even be cultivated. The blood man finally realized that the Chu Jun in front of him was his old master, Chu Iho. Before the blood man could react, Mumus peachwood vines tightly wrapped around him. The blood man was more certain that the woman in front of him was indeed Chu Iho. He changed his attitude immediately and pleaded, Master, it's me, little one. Everything I did was to wait for your return. Mumu scoffed, this piece of clothing is full of lies. Chu Jun was furious, using my name for your evil deeds and claiming it's for me. Are you even human? The blood man quickly knelt down. If the 8 great demon generals were alive, they would kill these people to avenge you. Chu Jun's smile froze. Mumu, it seems this fool just had to touch my power. The next second, Chu Jun's eyes blazed with anger. They would never use my name to cause chaos. You used my name and dared to compare yourself to them. What are you? The spirit bag was being crushed by Chu Jun's power, constantly admitting its mistakes and begging for forgiveness. But with a furious Chu Jun, he was doomed. Just as Chu Jun was about to strike, the bloodman shouted, Master, don't you want to see Han Nong Jiao Jun? Chu Jun paused. You said Jiao Jiao Long. The bloodman replied, he is alive and am the only one who knows where he is. Mumu retorted, don't try to deceive Master. If you really know Jiao Jiao Long's whereabouts, why didn't you stay by his side? Why hide in this desolate village? Chu Jun's anger intensified. She stared coldly at the blood man. Did you send the others away? The blood man didn't respond. Chu Jun's eyes filled with killing intent. A sharp, piercing sound reverberated through the blood-red world. The blood man's pleas turned into curses. Chu Iho, you're a jinx. Everyone who loves you will die because of you. Soul fire ignited. The blood man and the spirit bag were burned into ashes. Chu Jun stood there, eyes filled with sorrow, as if she had walked through 1,000 years alone. The earth demon stared at Chu Jun. Master, that imposter dared to impersonate you. Chu Jun sighed wearily. Countless vines burst from the ground, trapping the earth demon. The demons and their souls were torn to shreds. The illusions in the dungeon vanished. Mumu returned to his spiritual form. Chu Jun stood alone. Suddenly, a furry white blur crashed down from above, heading straight for Chu Jun. She jumped into Chu Jun's arms anxiously. Sister, are you okay? Chu Jun coughed up a mouthful of black blood. Mumu panicked. Master, you just exhausted your spiritual power. Quickly, take some spirit jade fluid. Chu Jun seemed not to hear Mumu. Her mind was filled with the blood man's words before his death. Everyone who loves you will die because of you. As Chu Jun fell, a pair of hands caught her waist. A familiar cold scent surrounded her. Yan Su heard her murmuring a name before losing consciousness. Jiao Jiao, a tone of sadness and loss he had never heard before. Even demon lords have their moments of weakness. Seeing the bull demon she poked in the butt, came to her door. She felt guilty and wanted to apologize. Zhu Qiu sighed at the demon lord's predicament. She was back in Chu Qin's arms again. A pair of powerful arms held her waist. A cold fragrance filled the air. Chu Jun fell into Yan Su's arms. They were back in time, thousands of years ago. A man with green robes and a winged demon stood under the peach tree, teasing, Chu Chu, when we go to the demon realm, they'll catch you a fat pet. Chu Jun's eyes sparkled with laughter. All right, you better not break your promise. They hooked their fingers. Just as their fingers were about to touch, Jiao Jiao Long was stained with blood. A piercing pain shot through Chu Jun. She could hear Jiao Long's desperate cries. She woke up with a start, her back covered in cold sweat. Mumu was concerned about his master. Chu Jun saw Yan Su holding Shi, sitting opposite her. After calming down, she asked Yan Su, did you save me? Yan Su first asked about her condition and then asked, I found you after killing the earth demon. What happened? Chu Jun casually replied, I just used all my strength, that's all. Shi rubbed her sleepy eyes. Seeing that Chu Jun was awake, she immediately jumped into Chu Jun's arms. Sister, I was so worried. Chu Jun stroked Shik's eyes soft fur lovingly. Shi is so good, let sister stroke your tail. The little fox wiggled its butt and obediently let Chu Jun stroke its tail, its eyes half closed in contentment. Chu Jun suddenly remembered Chu Mingzu and Mai Fugui. She asked about them. Yan Su said that Chu Mingzu and her brother were still in the trials, and as for Mai Fugui, go see for yourself. Chu Jun felt a little uneasy. She opened the carriage door to check. The scene in front of her made her face twitch. Mai Fugui, covered in mud, rushed over to Chu Jun. Chu Jun shouted, stop. What happened to you? Mai Fugui whined, it's all because of that rabbit chicken. He had a huge fight with your demon fox. Chu Jun was furious. Why were they fighting? Then, a soft voice sounded, it's me. I was transmitting information in the demon realm. Zhu Qiu hid behind Yan Su. It wasn't me. I wouldn't do that kind of childish thing. Mumu was embarrassed for Chu Jun. Chu Jun knew what the problem was, but still comforted Mumu. It's a small scene, Mumu, don't worry. The bull demon approached Chu Jun seriously and said, I remember you. Chu Jun pretended to be confused, how would you know me? We are meeting for the first time. The bull demon leaned closer. It was you, the masked white face and the furry chicken. You let the demon realm's demon tube go, and one of you three poked my butt. Yan Su was speechless. Chu Jun was guilty, not daring to say a word. Chu Jun, seeing the evidence, quickly handed the peachwood staff to Yan Su. Cousin, hold this for me. My hands are tired. Yan Su raised an eyebrow and asked with a hint of sarcasm, do you even have a conscience? Chu Jun laughed. The fox ate it. Seeing Chu Jun shamelessly trying to make him take the blame, Yan Su still took the staff. As soon as he held it, he felt something was wrong. This staff was actually made from peachwood. Yan Su wondered, what happened at Daoyuan Mountain? Why would he have peachwood? Yan Su then noticed the peach blossoms on the staff. Chu Jun suddenly asked, did you hear Mumu? Yan Su was suddenly enlightened and looked at the staff with disgust. She approached, brother, this would smell so good. Take a bite. It'll smell good all day. Yan Su replied with a dark expression, no. Chu Jun chuckled. Cousin's face is so sour. You don't want anything to smell better than you, do you? Yan Su was speechless. Have you ever seen a demon cow this lewd? She asked for handsome men, and to get those handsome men, she volunteered to become the demon lord's slave. Chu Jun felt she was a hot potato. After all, she had poked her butt. So she intended to refuse the bull demon, but the bull demon wouldn't agree. She forced Chu Jun to sign a slave contract. You have to sign it. An old man promised that as long as I protected you, I'd get food and handsome men. Mumu immediately understood. The old man was Jiu Delu. Chu Jun was speechless. Then let's sign it. After a series of contracts, Chu Jun stared at the bull demon. Hide your real form, don't let anyone see it. The bull demon agreed absent-mindedly, thinking about the 20 handsome men. Hearing Chu Jun ask her name, the bull demon said carelessly, call me Nyo. As soon as she said it, Chu Jun was speechless. Only my Fugue couldn't help but laugh. Zukyu and Shishi were also laughing. The bull demon was confused. Chu Jun gave the bull demon a name. From now on, you'll be called Nyo Dahua. The bull demon thought, what a wonderful name. After all this, my Fugue rubbed his stomach, demanding to go home and eat. The group got back into the carriage and headed towards the city. As soon as Chu Jun left the village, a merchant caravan stopped at the entrance. The sound of a cough came from the lead carriage. A frail man in green robes got out of the carriage. Though he was wearing lavish clothes, his sickly aura made him seem fragile. Accompanied by 2 guards, the man walked towards the place where Chu Jun had been. When he arrived at the spot, the man said with a hint of longing, the aura from that tattered cloth has disappeared. Chu Jun's group was still on the road. Bored, they sat in the carriage. Zukyu and the white fox were curled up asleep on Chu Mingju's lap. Chu Jun glanced at Yan Su, and a plan formed in her mind. She quietly moved closer to Yan Su and leaned against him. Cousin, this carriage is a bit bumpy. Yan Su blushed and told Chu Jun not to get too close. Chu Jun not only did not move away, but she got even closer and whispered, Yan Su, you weren't really under the control of demons, were you? And your scent is strange when you are. You have some kind of hidden ailment, right? Yan Su's scent grew colder. His secret had been discovered by Chu Jun. Chu Jun understood from Yan Su's reaction that she was right. Yan Su sighed, I was harmed a long time ago. I haven't found a way to cure it. Chu Jun stroked her chin. Your symptoms are similar to being poisoned with soul-devouring shadow. It was the first time Yan Su had heard that term. He asked, soul-devouring shadow. Chu Jun said, it's an ancient art used to control demons who have close relationships. Usually, there are no symptoms unless their blood and souls become one. Yan Su asked seriously, what's the cure? Chu Jun smiled mischievously, kill the person who did it to you. The carriage went silent. Yan Su was shocked. I keep losing control because of this poison. And the one who did this to me must have had a certain relationship with me. But I don't know who that person is. Chu Mingzu and Nyo Dahua looked at Yan Su with sympathy. Yan Su asked, if I don't kill the person. Chu Jun leaned closer and whispered, then you have to do it again. Seeing Yan Su's face turn green, Chu Jun couldn't help but burst out laughing. The great demon lord has a heat cycle for 3 months out of the year. But the female demon told him that this was actually an ancient technique. It was called soul devouring. If you want to cure it, either kill the person you have a close relationship with, or do it again, and become one. But Yansu still can't solve this problem, because he doesn't know the woman from 1,000 years ago. Chu Jun was shocked. You don't know who you slept with. But there is a way. The person with soul-devouring shadow can sense the other person, and they might feel different when they are near them. Yansu's gaze suddenly sharpened. He had also felt passion, but it was never this intense. It was only when he met Chu Jun. Then Chu Jun started to doze off next to him. Yansu's heart was racing as he recalled Chu Jun's words. Indescribable scenes began to appear in his mind. What did this mean? 1,000 years ago, his power was sealed, and he mysteriously became Shixai's father. 1,000 years later, Shishi discovered the severely injured Chu Jun. The current Chu Jun might still be the same shell, but the soul inside was different. They arrived at Jingyao Temple's entrance. Chu Mingyu was about to ask Chu Mingzu to come out, but she was shocked when he saw it. Yansu was holding the familiar Chu Jun. Shishi was curled up on Chu Jun. Yansu calmly told Chu Mingyu that everyone was sleeping in the carriage. Chu Mingyu was confused. Yansu entered the Jingyao Temple, carrying Chu Jun in front of Mai Fugui and Chu Mingyu. Mai Fugui chuckled behind them. Oh, my wooden cousin has finally come to his senses. Yansu carried Chu Jun a few steps before he realized something. He said coldly, "You're already awake, walk yourself." Chu Jun said innocently, "Oh, come on, cousin, you're so nice." Yansu didn't care. "If you don't get down, I'll throw you on the ground." Hearing this, Chu Jun quickly jumped down. She teased, "You're such a good person, I almost want to join my soul with you." Yansu blushed and said, "How ridiculous." Chu Jun and the others returned to Jingyao Temple. Hu Daobiao was waiting for them, drinking tea. He was surprised to see them. "You're back on the third day. Did you complete the task?" Mai Fugui sneered, "Oh, what a wonderful boss you are." Hu Daobiao glared, "What are you saying, you little rascal?" "You?" Mai Fugui hid behind Chu Jun. Chu Jun smiled confidently, "Of course we completed it. How could we come back alive if we didn't?" Hu Daobiao was relieved that the Chu siblings had come together. Before, Jingyao Temple gave them a task to go to Naming Village. But every task was just a formality. As long as they killed some rats, it would count. And then they would get a reward to practice in the demon realm for a day. This time, Hu Daobiao directly gave them the task to kill the demons. The goal was to prevent the fake resources from getting free spirit herbs again. Seeing that Chu Mingyu, her brother, and Chu Jun had returned together, Hu Daobiao knew this matter was settled. With Chu Mingyu's personality, she would report to the emperor directly. No middleman, and no one can stop a new talent. Hu Daobiao didn't say much. He told them to go collect their rewards. After Chu Mingyu and her brother left, Chu Jun said to Hu Daobiao, "I want something else." Hu Daobiao was impatient. "You're so troublesome. What do you want?" Chu Jun said, "I want to cultivate in the demon realm, and one day isn't enough." Hu Daobiao didn't argue. He generously gave Chu Jun a token. "This is my elder token. It's enough for you three to stay in the demon realm for a few days." Chu Jun chuckled. "You're so nice, Daobiao." Hu Daobiao folded his arms. "Cultivate hard. After you kill the shadow beast, you three better not make me work again. And make up for the cultivation days you owe me." A dignified demon lord was poisoned and betrayed. The person who was sleeping with him ran away. When he woke up, he had a son. To make things worse, he didn't know who the child's mother was. For more than 1,000 years he raised his child alone. Until now, he finally realized that his child's mother was right by his side. And the soul inside that woman's body has long changed to one from 1,000 years ago. Realizing that Chu Jun was the woman who slept with him thousands of years ago, Yansu already had someone he suspected. But he wasn't sure yet. He tentatively asked Chu Jun, which ancestor of the Chu family was the ruler of Jingyao Temple. Chu Jun answered without hesitation, "Of course it's Chu Iho." Yansu was certain now. It was really her. He Qing panicked a bit. Does this mean the current Chu Jun is the demon lord Chu Iho? Is she in danger? Yansu said calmly, she is safe. She's his son, after all. 1,000-year mystery was finally solved. He Qing was shocked. So the woman who slept with the master and ran away was Chu Iho. That woman gave birth to his son and didn't care. How much did our master suffer because of her? He Qing was overwhelmed by the news. Chu Jun added, "Oh, I didn't expect that you were old lovers with the demon lord. Did she mess with you? Zhu Q, who was hit where it hurts, shut up. The surrounding air suddenly turned cold. Scenes from thousands of years ago flashed through Yan Su's mind. His memories were chaotic. He only remembered that he had just broken through to the demon realm. He was being chased by a group of people in the Chu family's palace. When he was about to give up, Chu Iho stood in front of him and pulled him up. Then he fell unconscious. He didn't know what happened. He woke up months later. He was lying in a strange bed. Beside him was a baby-sized Shishi. Their blood connection told him that Shishi was his son. Chu Yihao's death was the same time he went crazy. He didn't know if Chu Iho was harmed by the Chu family. One day, Chu Jun and Mai Fuguei were about to enter the demon realm through the listening selection hall. As soon as they reached the entrance, they were stopped by two Jinyao Temple guards. Stop! You aren't authorized to enter the demon realm. Mai Fuguei couldn't help but ask, which rule says that people without a mission can't enter the demon realm? The two Jinyao Temple guards were arrogant. If you say another word, we'll make you suffer. At this moment, a voice said, "Oh, what a big show of authority." It was Qian Q. The two Jinyao Temple guards were shocked. "Why are you here?" Qian Q said sarcastically, "I wouldn't dare. You two can be the boss of Jinyao Temple. I only wish I had half of your power." The two guards immediately admitted their mistake. Qian Q gave them two options. Be punished or leave Jinyao Temple. The two guards chose to be punished. Then they left for their punishment. Qian Q then let Chu Jun and Mai Fuguei enter, and then left. Mai Fuguei was confused. Qian Q is one of Jinyao Temple's leaders. Why is he helping us? Shishi told them that Qian Q was the state preceptor's follower. The only one who could command Qian Q was the state preceptor. Chu Jun understood. It was Di Chen who had sent him to help. The state preceptor was really a good person. With Shishi leading the way, Chu Jun and the others arrived at the treasure-gathering place. Mai Fuguei said, "There are so many spirit herbs but no demons." "This is weird," Shishi explained, "because the Starry Night Lake connects to the inner demon realm. Those demons don't dare to come." Chu Jun caught the key point. The inner demon realm was under the lake. The demon lord was getting wild. He was actively cuddling with his demon lord. Once the demon lord used to tell him that he was shameless, but now he is showing his furry tail, a stark contrast to that previous behavior. And even his aura was full of pressure. Chu Jun and Mai Fuguei followed Shishi to the treasure-gathering place. From Shixai's words, the inner demon realm was under the Starry Night Lake. Chu Jun had an idea. She released the small fatty and Niu Dahua from the staff. She arranged for small fatty to gather herbs. She told Niu Dahua to eat her fill. Then she left Shishi in Mai Fuguei's care. Chu Jun decided to cultivate in the inner demon realm. Mai Fuguei and Shishi were worried as they watched Chu Jun jump into the depths. Shishi said he would protect Chu Jun. Mai Fuguei comforted Shishi, "Don't worry. Who do you think Chu Jun is? She'll be fine." Just then, Yan Su arrived. Shishi quickly pointed at the lake and told Yan Su, "Sister went to cultivate under the lake." I'm worried. Yan Su gently patted Shixai's head and told him, "Don't worry. I'll go down and protect her myself." Then he released a cloud of power. The lake water parted in the middle. Mai Fuguei was shocked. Damn! He has such a skill. Inside the Starry Night Lake, Chu Jun absorbed spiritual energy, constantly training her whole body. Yan Su was already standing behind Chu Jun, shocked. Someone is actually cultivating the human demon king body. This technique is powerful and can be destructive. But the cultivation process is dangerous. Even demons won't attempt it easily. As expected of you, Chu Iho. Yan Su remembered the woman who single-handedly charged into Chuo 1,000 years ago. She was breathtaking and her name was engraved in his mind. Yan Su's hand was already placed on Chu Jun's head. Spiritual energy entered Chu Jun's body. Chu Jun forcefully swallowed the energy, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Yan Su was constantly worried about Chu Jun, but if she wanted to reach her peak again, she had to endure the pain. Chu Jun endured the pain and said jokingly, "Cousin, my chest hurts. Can you take a look?" Yan Su carefully treated Chu Jun's wounds. "Why are you joking at a time like this? This is a result of evil qi entering your body. It'll help you dispel the evil qi." Chu Jun turned her head and smiled. "Cousin, you're so considerate. How about I repay you?" Yan Su's face darkened. "I'll let you live for now. When I get back Chu Yihao's identity, I will settle accounts with you." After a while, Chu Jun's breathing returned to normal. Yan Su took away his hands. The treatment was done. He told Chu Jun to continue cultivating, and that he would protect her. Chu Jun smiled and said, "Come here, let me give you something in return." Yan Su said coldly, "I did it willingly, I don't need a reward." Chu Jun grabbed Yan Su and kissed him forcefully. The scent of her body filled the air again. Chu Jun mischievously rubbed Yan Su's face. "Cousin, has anyone told you that you smell like flowers?" Looking at Yan Su's flushed face, Chu Jun pursed her lips. "Cousin, was that your first kiss?" Yan Su replied, "No." After teasing him, Chu Jun laughed and said, "I'm going to cultivate now. Thanks for protecting me." Just as she turned to leave, Yan Su suddenly grabbed her hand. Chu Jun's eye twitched. Normally, this fox avoided him, but now he was suddenly holding her hand. She tried to pull away, but Yan Su held on tightly, telling her to stay. At the same time, his big fluffy tail swished out. Yan Su put Chu Jun's hand on his tail. "My soul-devouring shadow is acting up. Please help me." Chu Jun could smell Yan Su's scent even more. It was now mixed with an overpowering pressure. Mumu was freaking out. "Master, this fox is seducing you." Chu Jun comforted Mumu in her heart, "Stay calm. He probably isn't that kind of fox." But Chu Jun couldn't tell what Yan Su was planning. Yan Su was getting closer and closer, his eyes filled with longing. "Don't you want to?" One was a demon lord who wanted all the handsome men in the world. One was a flirty, handsome demon fox. Both of these old foxes were testing each other out. Thinking the other would back down, they didn't expect that the other was even more aggressive. After finding out that Chu Jun was the woman who slept with him, Yan Su wanted to kill her, but a strange feeling made it impossible for him to do so. When Chu Jun flirted with Yan Su followed his instincts and pulled Chu Jun into his arms, saying that his soul-devouring shadow was acting up and asked Chu Jun to help. Chu Jun now realized that something was wrong with Yan Su. But Yan Su was getting closer, his dangerous aura was intense. Chu Jun panicked. "Cousin, you seem different than before. You need to control yourself. If I go wild, even I'm afraid of myself." Chu Jun, a woman who'd seen many things, suddenly turned on the offensive. Yan Su was caught off guard. "You pervert," Chu Jun said to herself, "trying to seduce me. I'm the master of seduction." She began to stroke the big fluffy tail. The fox was extremely sensitive, and Yan Su even leaned onto Chu Jun's shoulder. Chu Jun's face flushed. "Is it that comfortable? Why don't you moan?" A wave of passion surged as Yan Su lowered his head closer to Chu Jun's neck. Chu Jun pushed Yan Su away and looked at him seriously. "Did you want me? Were you thinking of me as your mate?" Yan Su also regained his senses, and lied calmly, "No." Chu Jun took a few steps back, pointing at Yan Su. "You're acting very weird today." Yan Su said that he had lost his mind due to anger. Chu Jun said, "Is it because of the soul-devouring shadow?" Then, she patted Yan Su's shoulder and said, "Forget the past. You'll always be a good fox." Yan Su pulled Chu Jun into his arms again and asked, "If it were you, could you let it go?" Chu Jun shook her head. "If it was me, I would torture them to death." Yan Su was speechless. "Then why are you telling me to let it go?" Chu Jun said with a straight face, "I'm a hypocrite." "Don't worry, this is a personal vendetta. This woman needs to be punished. I'll help you kill her." Yan Su stared at Chu Jun. "You'll help me?" Chu Jun smiled slyly. "Yeah, we're friends, aren't we?" Yan Su restrained his murderous intent and said lightly, "All right, it's a deal. You just broke through. Continue cultivating and stabilize your powers." Yan Su was about to leave when Chu Jun called him back. As Yan Su turned around, Chu Jun shoved something into his mouth. The spirit jade melted in his mouth, filled with a rich life force. Yan Su looked at Chu Jun with a complicated expression. "What did you give me?" Chu Jun casually replied, "A little spirit jade." "Thanks for helping me with your power." Yan Su felt strange. He couldn't understand Chu Jun. She seemed carefree and careless, but she was always generous to those around her. Would such a person use the soul-devouring shadow for her own selfish desires? After Yan Su left, Mumu grumbled, "Master, he was clearly trying to seduce you." "But Chu Jun understood. "He doesn't just want to seduce me, he wants to kill me. I need to find out more about this cousin of mine." After a while, Yan Su flew back. She rushed over to Yan Su. Xiang, brother, are you okay?" I was worried about you. Yan Su gently patted Shixai's head. Then he asked seriously, Shishi, do you miss your mother? Shixai's eyes lit up and his fluffy tail wagged. Of course, the little demon fox grew up without a mother. His mother was a demon lord who shook the world. His father was a highly respected demon god, but his parents were betrayed by others. His father was poisoned with soul-devouring shadow, and was tricked into having a night of passion with the demon lord. When he woke up, he was sealed away. Beside him was a baby demon fox. The mother of his child had disappeared. 1,000 years later, the demon lord found out that Chu Iho was Shixai's mother. He had the urge to kill her. After some investigation, he realized that Chu Iho wouldn't use soul-devouring shadow for her selfish desires. There might be some other reason. Looking at the adorable Shishi, Yan Su felt conflicted. He had never told Shishi that his birth was an accident. Shishi had always believed that his parents loved each other, that he was a symbol of their love. Those ideas were all from He Qing. One day, Yan Su, disguised as Di Chen, to find out what had happened to Chu Iho 1,000 years ago, he went to the Shumi Pavilion to search for information. Records of Chu Iho were simple. Her birth was unknown, and her death was also tragic. Zhu Qiu stared at Di Chen with a dark expression. What are you planning to do with Chu Iho? Don't think I don't know that you want to kill her. Di Chen turned around calmly. So what? Zhu Qiu said angrily. The Chu family has wronged the demon lord and demon ancestors. But Chu Iho never wronged the demon ancestor. As long as she was alive. The humans and demons never truly fought. Di Chen naturally knew all this. Zhu Qiu saw Di Chen's attitude and had a good idea of what was going on. You want to kill her not because she is Chu Iho, but because she abandoned you. Di Chen calmly put down the scroll and asked, how much do you know about Chu Yihao's past? Chu Iho is not her real name. What is it? Zhu Qiu only knew that Chu Iho was the youngest daughter of the Heavenly Emperor. Because she was the 13th child, everyone called her Chu 13. Although her favorite older brother gave her a name, Zhu Qiu didn't know what it was. The mention of her older brother piqued Di Chen's interest. Zhu Qiu explained, Chu Iho was in seclusion a month before her death. The other 12 members of the Chu family tricked her out by saying that her brother was dying. At first, she was fine. But then, she suddenly. Yan Su stared at him coldly. So, you just watched as they harmed her. Zhu Qiu was filled with regret. I watched as she was killed. I didn't dare to speak out. I was afraid of dying. Di Chen suddenly thought of something. He asked, who was by her side when she died? Which demons? Zhu Qiu shook his head. How would I know? Di Chen asked if he knew about the demon lord's sealing. Zhu Qiu didn't know. After Chu Iho died, he went crazy with regret. He tried to stop them from dismembering her body, but was injured by a green dragon, and his power was taken away. Di Chen was sure now. Chu Iho didn't know what had happened between her and the demon lord, and she didn't know she had a son. A man tried to bully the demon lord, and cried for help. He tried to provoke the demon lord, but ended up being beaten instead. Back at the inn, Mai Fugue asked Chu Jun, will you be okay in tomorrow's test against Shu Wu? Chu Jun wiped her sweat and said coldly, Shu Wu will die. Mai Fugue felt relieved and went home to sleep. Before he could go far, a bucket of stinky black dog blood was poured at them. Chu Jun quickly pulled Mai Fugue aside. The one who poured the blood was Shu Fei, Shu Tian's younger brother. He was with 2 servants, looking provocatively at Chu Jun and Mai Fugue. Mai Fugue retorted, Shu Fei, you're so ugly, even your own family members can't stand you. And you dare to show off. Shu Fei was enraged. He was about to pour another bucket of dog blood. Chu Jun released a barrier. The bucket of dog blood spilled on Shu Fei and his 2 servants. Mai Fugue laughed. Shu Fei cried and yelled, brother. They bullied me. Just then, a voice said, Chu Jun, you have some nerve. Zi Feifei walked over with Shu Qianxi. Chu Jun said, oh, it's you too. The perfect pair. Shu Qianxi said, Chu Jun, you're disrespectful to your elders, you don't respect your father, and you bullied your sister. Marquis Zi has decided to cut ties with you. Chu Jun said, what? My father wants to cut ties with me. Looking at Chu Jun's expression, Shu Qianxi and the others were satisfied. Zi Feifei added, this is the end for you, you worthless piece of trash. Chu Jun's expression suddenly changed. That's exactly what I wanted. It was Zi Feifei's turn to be shocked. What do you mean? Chu Jun shrugged. I wanted to sever ties with that loser a long time ago. Thank you for bringing me good news. Then she left with my Fugue. Zi Feifei and Shu Qianxi were furious. They could only comfort themselves by saying that Chu Jun would die tomorrow. That night, Chu Jun arrived at Yan Su's courtyard. She said, "Cousin, can I stay here for the night?" Yan Su said without looking up, "Go home if you have a home." Chu Jun said, "I don't have a home anymore." Yan Su didn't understand. "Your home is in the Pingyang Marquis mansion." "Why do you say that?" Chu Jun said carelessly, "The Pingyang Marquis cut ties with me and kicked me out." Chu Jun yawned, "So where am I sleeping?" Yan Su didn't speak. He simply took Chu Jun to the room. Chu Jun was shocked. "Cousin, isn't this your room? Are you planning to share a bed with me?" Chu Jun looked like a pervert. Yan Su cursed her for being shameless. He turned around, "I'll sleep next door." Chu Jun held onto him, "Without my cousin to warm my bed, how am I supposed to sleep?" After Yan Su left, Chu Jun began to cultivate on the bed. Mumu said, "Master, aren't you going to sleep tonight?" Chu Jun didn't plan to sleep. It was the perfect time to kill someone. Under the dark night, a cold voice echoed through the general's mansion, "Shu Wu, it's time to die." Shu Qianxi woke up with a start, his face filled with shock. In the courtyard, the servants of the general's mansion had surrounded Chu Jun. Chu Jun yelled, "Shu Wu, get out here and die." Shu Wu walked out with his sword. "You're so eager to die that you can't even wait for the sun to rise. You really have no fear of death." The crowd was waiting to see how Shu Wu would kill Chu Jun. Chu Jun said, "Just fight already. I want to kill you and go back to sleep." Shu Wu's eyes filled with killing intent. "I, your general, will kill you." He attacked Chu Jun with his sword. Chu Jun suppressed her power. She sent a palm towards his body, catching Shu Wu off guard. Shu Wu was instantly sent flying. Shu Wu's sword went through his body and continued towards Chu Jun. "Chu Jun, today is your death day." Chu Jun smirked, "Petty tricks." Chu Jun used 2 fingers to catch the sword. Under Shu Wu's shocked gaze, Chu Jun said calmly, "That's not how you use a sword. I've never seen such a boastful mouth." He just beat 1,000 reformentation cultivator so easily. The others were still in shock. Someone's husband came over and pulled his wife's hand, telling her to go home and sleep. The general was too weak. Shu Wu confidently swung his sword at Chu Jun, but Chu Jun didn't even flinch. She held the blade with 2 fingers. Then she flicked the blade with her finger. She sent a palm towards him. Shu Wu was sent flying meters back. With a roar, Chu Jun held up the peachwood staff. "This is how you use it." She released her power. The power pierced through the night. Shu Wu barely dodged. He looked back in horror. Chu Jun's staff had completely destroyed the ground. The crowd was shocked. Chu Jun's attack contained the power of the heavens. It was the power that cultivators spent their entire lives seeking. What was even more shocking was that Chu Jun cultivated both demon and human powers. Shu Wu looked at her with a pale face. "I underestimated you, but it's good. A genius is more interesting than a piece of trash." Chu Jun glanced at Shu Wu. "Do you know how bad guys die? They talk too much." Shu Wu was enraged and attacked again. This time Chu Jun casually blocked it with her arm. The sword struck Chu Jun's arm and sparked, but it didn't break her skin. Shu Wu was shocked. Chu Jun was already right in front of him. The next second, Chu Jun punched him in the heart. Shu Wu spat out blood. He was sent flying back by Chu Jun's punch. Shu Qianxi and Zi Feifei were shocked. Shu Wu lay unmoving on the ground. The servants cried, "He's dead. General Shu is dead." Shu Qianxi came back to his senses. Chu Jun Shu Wu was a general of the court. "How dare you kill him? His Majesty will never let you go." Chu Jun said, "His Majesty better not let me go. I'm just waiting for him to notice me." Shu Qianxi was speechless. Zi Feifei had the servants carry her out. Chu Jun said, "So you've already prepared my coffin." Zi Feifei and Zi Jun were shocked. "You're not dead." Chu Jun pointed at Shu Wu on the ground. "The coffin is useless. Shu General can use it. But Shu Wu is dead today. I wonder if the heavens will descend a natural disaster on the Marquis mansion tomorrow." Zi Jun and Zi Feifei couldn't believe it. Chu Jun had actually defeated Shu Wu. Zi Feifei pointed at Chu Jun, "Don't be so happy. If the Marquis mansion is in trouble, it's because your ancestors brought it on us." Chu Jun smiled, "Is that so? Then let me ask you, Zi Feifei, did you sleep with Shu Tian's father? If it's a lie, may lightning strike me down." Zi Feifei was terrified but stubbornly said, "I didn't." "You're the one who harmed." Before Zi Feifei could finish, a bolt of lightning struck her. Chu Jun chuckled, pointing at Zi Feifei. See, heaven agrees with me. Suddenly, Yan Su called out Chu Qing's name. In front of everyone, Chu Jun teased Yan Su, weren't you not coming to see me, uni dog? Yan Su, claiming his ownership, grabbed Chu Jun's hand. It's late, let's go home and sleep. The female demon teased the demon emperor again. This time, she had pushed too far. The demon emperor, in full fury, immediately charged at her. In the end, it was she who touched his head. The leaves danced fearlessly in the wind. Chu Jun defeated the demon emperor with a single move. Everyone present and those watching in secret were shocked. Again, under everyone's gazes, Yan Su took Chu Jun's hand calmly. It's late. Let's go home and sleep. Walking, Chu Jun teased, sleep by yourself or with you. Yan Su, used to Chu Jun's words, replied, whatever makes you happy. Moments later, Yan Su appeared in his room with Chu Jun on his back. Chu Jun, leaning on his shoulder, whined, killing people is so tiring. If I didn't have you, I might not have made it home. Cousin, you're not little anymore. Yan Su glanced at Chu Jun. What are you plotting now? He then shifted his body, letting Chu Jun slide off. Chu Jun almost fell. Why did you put me down? We're not in the room yet. Are we going to sleep in the same room tonight? Yan Su answered calmly, up to you. Chu Jun smirked, sly fox, retreating to advance. Inside the room, Chu Jun leaned by Yan Su's bedside, asking, cousin, we're sleeping in the same room, but you didn't make my bed. Yan Su didn't back down. How about we sleep together? Chu Jun, not wanting to show weakness, replied, don't mind if I do. Yan Su was already asleep. Chu Jun, still restless, she whispered in Yan Su's ear, cousin, why are you wearing a mask to sleep? Isn't it uncomfortable? Let me take it off for you, she said, taking off his mask. Yan Su, no longer sleepy, sat up. Chu Jun stared at his now exposed face. Cousin, your face is so familiar. You look a lot like the state preceptor. You guys aren't related, are you? She teased, raising Yan Su's chin. Yan Su didn't avoid her touch. Since you want to play, don't let go. Mumu was almost going crazy. Master, you're playing with fire. Chu Jun was also confused. Cousin, what's up with you? You're not playing by the rules. Mumu guessed Yan Su had lost it after learning about the old woman sleeping with Chu Jun. Chu Jun thought so too. When he sensed Yan Su was acting strange, he had planned to leave for good. Yan Su didn't let him go. He grabbed Chu Jun's wrist and pulled him back. You want to run away? Let go, Chu Jun warned. This isn't appropriate. Yan Su pushed Chu Jun down. A man and woman alone. Isn't this perfect? He stared at her intently. I'm serious, you're the one who is running. Chu Jun tried to reason, cousin, I'm not that old woman. You can't mistake me. Yan Su thought, that old woman is you. But he just said, let's sleep. Chu Jun still tried to negotiate. Yan Su didn't budge. He moved even closer. Chu Jun wanted to say something more, but Yan Su didn't give him the chance. After a passionate kiss, Chu Jun realized that her clothes were coming off and that the joke was over. A few seconds later, Chu Jun slapped Yan Su's chin. No, cousin, the sleeping I meant was just simple sleeping, not this. Anyway, I'm sleeping next door, Chu Jun said, fixing her clothes and heading for the door. Yan Su coldly said, so, all you can do is talk a big game. Chu Jun's competitive spirit reignited. It's not that I won't sleep with you, it's just that I don't like overly aggressive men. Yan Su was left speechless. The female demon finished her revenge and went home to flirt with her husband. Her attack had shocked everyone, shaking the entire capital. The palace was in complete chaos. The next morning, Marquis Z offered gifts to the palace eunuch Li. He wanted him to say good things about him in front of the emperor. Eunuch Li coldly said, I warned you. His Majesty has never forgotten Princess Chu Jun, nor has he forgotten that this is the residence of the Grand Princess. Marquis Z turned pale. The gifts fell to the ground. Eunuch Li stood up, if you can't bring back the princess, then you must find a new place for your family. And once you leave, you will no longer be a Marquis. Marquis Z collapsed to the ground. Eunuch Li left, leaving one last sentence. The characters are wrong. The characters for the Grand Princess residence are not written like this. With a wave, his red sleeve swept the writing away. After Eunuch Li left, Wang Shi rushed over, crying that Chu Jun had blinded Zi Feifei's eye and demanded Zi Jun seek justice. Zi Jun slapped Wang Shi. If it weren't for you and your stupidity, Chu Jun wouldn't have turned against our family. After venting on Wang Shi, Jun felt even more heartbroken. Chu Jun, my dear daughter. At that moment, Chu Jun was curiously looking at an apple. While eating, she thought about Jiao Long again. Mumu comforted her. Jiao Long is still alive. We will find him. Since I've entered the Jinya Temple, next is the Shumi Pavilion. It must have records of the fire gate. Chu Jun planned a way to enter the Shumi Pavilion safely. Mumu knew she was planning to use soul tracking techniques. Your current strength is not enough to use it. You will get hurt, Chu Jun said carelessly. So what if I get hurt? I won't die. Compared to what you all have done for me, a little injury is nothing. After a moment, my Fugue ran in. Little Jun, do you have something to tell me? Chu Jun wanted my Fugue to help her inquire about some things. My Fugue eagerly agreed. Chu Jun wanted to know where the 2 dragon orbs of the Chu family were. My Fugue had heard about this. It said the royal family once possessed a dragon that did evil. Its scales were made into 100 lin armor, stored in the royal vault. Its orbs were made into 2 heavenly lanterns. 1 lantern was given to the Grand Princess for her birthday. Chu Jun grew cold. What evil dragon? She asked my Fugue, who was the lantern given to. My Fugue repeated, the Grand Princess, His Majesty's aunt. Chu Jun pondered, what a coincidence. Isn't the Grand Princess the old woman who slept with Yan Su? Mumu realized it as well. This must be the Heavens helping master to help her cousin. In Wangcheng, a carriage was entering the city. Whispers could be heard. Inside the carriage, Shi Enyu told Jiao Long about Chu Jun killing Shu Wu. Jiao Long was pleased. Good, another dog of the emperor is dead. The carriage stopped. Jiao Long got out with Shi Enyu's help. They walked to a nearby restaurant. Jiao Long sighed. It has been so long since I've been back to the capital. When did the Chu family get a princess? Dorna said. I heard she's both a human and demon cultivator, but her power is yet to be awakened. Jiao Long scoffed. So what if her bloodline is awakened? She'll just be another stepping stone for the emperor. Being back here made Jiao Long feel uneasy and start coughing. He blamed it on being back in his old place. After settling in, Jiao Long sent Shi Enyu to rest. He stood by the window, facing the direction of the Jinya Temple. He smiled gently. Chu, I'll find you. Wait for me. The year-old Grand Princess was having a party with music every night. Countless handsome men served her. She even had designs on the demon emperor. A handsome man appeared before her, catching her eye. She decided to have him. Chu Jun kicked down Yan Su's door. Shi and Zuzu were hugging each other and trembled. Chu Jun glared at Zuzu. You rabbit chicken. You're not leaving even the kids alone. Shi pulled Chu Jun's clothes, trying to explain. I was bullying Zuzu. He used to say I was a coward. Chu Jun picked up Shi, asking where Yan Su was. Shi didn't know, just saying that Yan Su left early, looking unhappy. Chu Jun forced Zuzu to tell her, but Zuzu didn't know either. Lin Su had been ignoring Zuzu recently. Chu Jun thought, it seems Xiao Hunying hit him hard. It's a shame the old woman from the Chu family didn't die. Zuzu was shocked. Who are you calling an old woman? Chu Jun didn't hold back. She's the one who slept with Yan Su. Zuzu was speechless. How could Chu Jun mistake the Grand Princess for the one who slept with Yan Su when she was the one who did it? Chu Jun turned to leave. She was worried. Zuzu asked, where are you going? Chu Jun didn't give him a good face. It's none of your business. This scared Shi. Zuzu was embarrassed but retorted, you're always causing trouble. Chu Jun replied coldly, don't worry, it won't affect you. Zuzu realized he said the wrong thing. After Chu Jun left, Zuzu sat on a chair, lost in thought. Ever since he found out that Chu Jun was Chui Ho, he felt confused whenever he saw her. Even Shi noticed. Rabbit chicken, you look very sad. He tried to deny it. He Qing delivered a secret letter to the state preceptor, revealing that the Grand Princess did have a royal Chu orb. Also, the Grand Princess would be celebrating her birthday at the end of the month. The preceptor made his plan. The Grand Princess likes to use demon beast blood as a mirror. He would send a few demon beast gizzards. He Qing wanted to say something, but the preceptor's expression had already turned cold. I heard you told him that I missed his mother. He Qing was stunned. He wailed, I would never dare to say something like that. The preceptor said without looking up, you're crying too loudly. Cry again. He Ching realized that the preceptor had become twisted. He was acting just like Chuo. Inside the royal palace, the Grand Princess was having a party. The Grand Princess, Chu Mingyu, sat on her throne, enjoying herself. Handsome men were serving her. Chu Mingzu in the west wing was suffering. The music and singing were so loud, she couldn't sleep. She opened her door to find that Chu Mingyu wasn't sleeping either. The two cousins, unable to sleep, were being kept up by the Grand Princess. After consoling each other, Chu Mingzu exclaimed, "The Grand Aunt is already 80. Why is she still so indecent?" Chu Mingyu was speechless. She's always been like that. At that moment, Chu Mingyu looked arrogantly at the man at her feet. Suddenly, she laughed and kicked him. The young man knelt on the ground, asking carefully, "Grand Princess, did I not serve you well?" Chu Mingyu coldly said, "Your face is fine, but the feet are so boring." Having said that, he ordered them to drag him down and make him into flower fertilizer. The young man lost all strength on the spot, and was dragged away. Chu Ning, indifferent, thought that it was all common nonsense, and that the preceptor was still the one who pleased her heart. The servants around her broke out in cold sweat, inwardly thinking, "You are really bold." Out loud, they praised her. Today, a beautiful man has come from afar, whose looks and charm are comparable to the preceptor. Chu Mingyu became immediately interested and hurriedly had the man brought before her. The man's eyes were like jade, the colors of the world gathered on his face. His pale lips suppressed the flamboyance, and he emanated a sense of tragic beauty. Chu Mingyu instantly stared at his true face. "Come here and let me have a good look at you." The man lowered his gaze. "This humble servant, Chuo, greets the princess." Old man style. Countless handsome men before her. But since the arrival of this green-robed man, the seemingly peaceful royal city began to brew a great storm. The arrogant Chu Mingyu also had her days numbered. "From now on, you're mine," Chu Mingyu said, stroking Chuo's chin. Chuo submissively agreed. At the same time, outside the royal villa, Chu Jun found Niu Dahua. She asked him to use his earth-shielding magic, so she could enter without being seen. Niu Dahua happily agreed. Then, he gave Chu Jun a push. "Go." The next second, the two disappeared. The winter moon was still bright. Niu Dahua stopped before even reaching the east courtyard. He sensed something blocking their path. He told Chu Jun there was a barrier, and it had activated a magic formation. Chu Jun muttered, "This old hag is quite cautious." Suddenly, Niu Dahua frantically warned Chu Jun. "A demon is coming." Chu Jun raised a hand. A barrier formed, separating them from the outside world. Two black and white Rakshasa demons suddenly appeared. The Rakshasa demons noticed them as well, but before they could attack, Chu Jun and Niu Dahua moved. The black one wanted to chase, but the white one said, "Too much trouble. It's not like they entered the temple anyway." As the two of them left, the vegetation they passed withered, as if their life force had been stolen. Chu Jun watched everything from within the barrier. Niu Dahua was shocked. "What are those two? They can steal the life force from the outside world." Chu Jun's gaze darkened. "They are from the Rakshasa demon clan. Upgrading to remaining." Mumu was shocked. Weren't the Rakshasa demons wiped out thousands of years ago? How are there still survivors? Chu Jun had some calculations in mind. It seems this Grand Princess isn't simple. Niu Dahua suddenly remembered had seen similar Rakshasa demons in the demon clan's inner palace. That was about 10 years ago. The Jin Temple was different then. Chu Jun asked, "How was it different?" Niu Dahua said solemnly, "More demons died. Cannibalistic demons died the fastest. Those who were able to cultivate through human means died the most miserable deaths." Chu Jun had them move away from the ground in the barrier, and continued to ask, "Is it because of the preceptor?" Niu Dahua said the preceptor was terrifying, a demon's nightmare. He didn't want to go against him. Chu Jun felt that the preceptor she had seen wasn't like that. Although she had only met him briefly, she didn't believe he was like that. Chu Jun yawned. "Let's stop for today." Niu Dahua happily agreed, wanting to go back to eating grass. Chu Jun waved, asking him to report any news. After Niu Dahua left, Mumu muttered, "The Chu family's descendants are actually keeping Rakshasa demons by their side. How ridiculous." Chu Jun coldly chuckled. "Rakshasa demons feed on humans, they love to feast on demons. How many people did they kill?" The bloodlust on those two Rakshasa demons was so strong. They were about to grow feet on their foreheads. Mumu broke out in cold sweat. Rakshasa demons grow feet when they've killed too many people. That Grand Princess is indeed not someone to be trifled with. Anger flashed in Chujun's eyes. Just you wait. I'll make her pay. Meanwhile, in the east courtyard, Chuo was playing the zither for Chu Mingyu. Chu Mingyu looked at him with desire. After the performance, Chu Mingyu asked her to come to the mirror. Chuo obediently approached the mirror, a killing intent hidden in his eyes. Chu Mingyu played with Chuo's hair. Tonight, let's test it. Chuo obediently agreed. Suddenly, two black and white shadows appeared beside them. Chu Mingyu's expression changed, revealing a hint of annoyance. Why are you here? The white Rakshasa said. The leader received reports about the two. There is a report to be made. Chu Mingyu turned to Chuo and said, you can go now. Well, announce it tomorrow. As Chuo brushed past the Rakshasa demons, the white Rakshasa demon looked at him, revealing sharp fangs. Chuo didn't sense any danger, but his steps faltered. Chu Mingyu scolded, white ghost. The white Rakshasa closed his mouth, and let out two sharp screeches. She watched Chuo leave. He barely left. Chu Mingyu said, that Chuo is so clean. Chuo, white jade bloodline, was actually still alive. The emperor, for his own selfish desires, didn't hesitate to send his children to be near the demons' jaws. The demons that feed on humans are also related to the princes and princesses. It was planned that after eating the princes and princesses, they will. After the emperor let Chuo leave, one Rakshasa demon licked him greedily while the black one was indifferent. The two demons had different tastes, but were both wondering how best to eat him.